How's everyone doing? Hope everyone's doing well. It's Monday, fresh week. This is a new music live session, music production live session. I'm Charles Klein, singer-songwriter and producer. So welcome back to the live stream, guys. In this video, this live stream I've titled "How to Add Atmospherics to Your Tracks in Logic." The principles are the same across any DAW you're using, and how we can go about doing that, how I go about doing that in my tracks, and you can take some of this to put it in your own tracks. So let me get this set up a bit. Like we used to. And I'm gonna get the chat going. Let's use the chat in this video to ask questions. I know it's a live stream, and if you're watching this later and it's recorded, feel free to reference some of the, skip ahead to this, and we're going to use the chat as like a Q&A throughout this video. So use the chat to ask questions, and I'll answer them if I can. And ask anything about Logic or music production, or if you see anything in my DAW here that you're wondering, you have a question about, let's always just use the chat to ask questions, because why not, right? We're live. So hey Dreams, how's it going? Hey Shet, how's it going? Hope you guys are well. Okay, I'm gonna just record a small piece of piano here and use that as a reference to add atmospheric tracks. So atmospherics are like, it's not like whale sounds, or it can be, or like jungle sounds at all. Like when I say atmospherics, it's kind of like the general term to just add like sound to your track that's hardly noticeable, but does add a huge amount of value to the track. All professional tracks have so much atmospherics and things you don't really hear, but if you muted those tracks, it would sound super empty. So if you're looking to make your track sound more full and have kind of cooler dynamic, you want to add pads and atmospheric sounds to make it sound full. And so we'll do an A/B test right now with just recording a bit of piano, and then seeing what the piano sounds like with atmospherics and sound, and what that piano sounds like without atmospherics, and how we would go about adding those pad sounds, and then how we can like go on from there, and how we can create our own pad sounds from scratch. And I'll use all stock Logic virtual instrument plugins in this video, so you can do this today in your own tracks. A little just reference to, we've been doing these music production live sessions on Mondays. This one's a little earlier, so I know a lot of people might just be sleeping still. So you can watch the recorded version of this. Every Monday we do music production live sessions where I just talk about how-tos or actually make songs from scratch, and then Friday doing music marketing sessions. So feel free to subscribe and stick around, join the live sessions too. I'm going to just record a small piano bit, and then we'll get started making some pad sounds. Just something more or less simple. I'll set a tempo, probably like 95. Okay, let's just use that, something simple, just to get the idea going. I'm just going to use the second part here I recorded. So I'm just cut this. Quickly quantize this by a 16th. All right. So just adding, actually that's a good tip there as well, just adding the reverb I did on that. I'm using a contact instrument. And just adding the reverb adds atmospherics in a way, because without the reverb it sounds like this. And let me just turn the stereo out so you can really get the actual idea. So that's without, and this is with the reverb. These are actually noises that you can add on the piano. And when you have some like instruments that are very bare like this, then you want to add reverb and little like air noises and this type of thing. Without this stuff, it sounds very empty. But that, not really getting into that in this video. It's more, how do we add, okay, a pad to this that's really not noticeable but still adds a lot. So an easy way to do that in Logic would be to add a new software instrument and use the stock plugins. A lot of these synths have pad presets. So like Alchemy has pads, the Sculpture has pads, so we can go into the Sculpture synth and go to, yeah, pads. So all of these would be very atmospheric sounds. Just like air almost. And I'm just holding down an A minor chord. That would sound, I think, pretty good with this. And what I'm doing there is I'm just going to hold down the root of the key. So we're in A minor. I'm just going to hold down an A minor chord and extend that full thing for this bar here. So it doesn't sound good right now because it's super loud, but we're going to mix that in quickly. Just having it at like a negative, maybe like 40 dB or lower. We have to quantize that. How's everyone doing in the chat? Music Girl and Luckish Shubman. What kind of music are you guys making? I'm really curious to know that. Are you making pop music, or are you guys singers, songwriters, producers? Just that alone there adds a lot of depth. And maybe this isn't the right sound, but it's pretty close. And we could also going to increase the attack on this pad by going to the A here on the sculpture synth and just increasing that. Basically, you can make a pad sound out of anything. Oh, not anything, I guess. Well, any synth really, if you increase the attack, you'll almost turn it into a pad sound. And we'll do that in a minute. But I'll give you an example with this one. Since we increase the attack, we can add more reverb to that if we want. We can bust out some big reverb. And I'm just going to play it loud so you can actually hear it. So that is an example of an atmospheric pad, literally having that maybe at -18 just underneath the keys. That adds a lot of depth to the keys. Like, it's something you barely even want to hear, but this is noticeable enough where if we solo this and I mute this, now it might be hard for you to hear on your headphones because it is at low volume, but it's noticeable to me when I mute this, when I have it on and then I mute it, it sounds really empty, the piano. Or not, it's not empty in a bad way, but these pads help it sound more full. Songwriter from China. Wow. Cool. What kind of music are you making in China? And Charlotte, you're looking to write pop rock kind of stuff. That's cool stuff. Some of these videos that I make will be really helpful for the pop side of things and the rock side as well, actually. I just made a rock song today. Funny enough, like a Tame Impala style song. So why do pads give depth to songs? They give depth because it gives you the feeling that the song is more full. And that's what I mean by depth. Like when you're listening in headphones on speakers, you really will hear the full spectrum of sound. And like even having even like crackles, little vinyl crackles, like things happening will make it sound like more full. If it's just really raw MIDI data of your instrument without any reverb or pad sounds, it's going to sound really empty. So that's what I mean by depth, is it gives, like, if you look at this multimeter and we solo the pad, it's not loud enough, but you can see like these signals here are all from the pad sound, and like we're going to have that with our piano, so it's going to fill out more sound. Like it's not going to sound as empty because more sound is in the track. And then, so the key is, when it comes to pad sounds, it's really the root note of the song you're in. It's not really, you can follow some type of progression, but you want the pad to be consistent, and it should be the root note of your key. So whatever your key is in, for example, we're in A minor, so this is an A minor chord. It could also just be an A note, like it could just be this note here. And we could hold that note and have it at a soft velocity, like, and maybe nothing higher than 50. and just have that sustain. And then you can go into sculpture as an example and find different pad sounds. This one's called ambient intrigue. This one's called ambient light. So that might be like too insane. Just gonna go left, right here, ambient pad. Actually, just gonna stick with the first one and then go through the presets. So let's talk about like how you're from Maui. That's awesome. Yeah, rad. Okay, let's talk about like how you can make a sound like this from scratch using any synth. And we can open up like a new software instrument and go to like a retro synth and find our key again, which are in A minor. So this is, let's just do a like a brass something standard. So how you'd make a pad sound basically with anything is just you want the attack to be really long. So these attack values here on the filters and on the amp, just increase them. Make that release really long. It's probably a better sound. Get in home, get it in home, go hard. So this is, I've just kind of fooled around with the attack values, changed it to this signal shape, and that's sounds like a pad to me. I could just record this over these keys, used an A minor chord. And quantize that. And then you can make, like, you can just keep fooling around with the dials if you don't like that envelope coming up at all. Another great way to add like cool things to your pad sounds is to automate things. Maybe you're automating the filters here or there. For example, like the cutoff filter, we can have that super low. But if we want that filter to open up here or there just to pop out, we can do that. I mean, let's do that right now. So one way to do that quickly is to change this read value to latch. And now we can, once this is playing, we can actually use our mouse and like open up this filter by clicking on this circle and opening up this cutoff. And that's going to program that automation in. Okay, so you can see what we did there. It's important to change that back to read. and then we can type in A on the keyboard, open up an automation. Let's just get rid of this by pressing E. And now you can see this retro synth cutoff that I just programmed in. So this is what it looks like. And I can go and clean this up by clicking and dragging if I want just it to be a bit more locked in. Or let's say I didn't want it that high. And you can also just go in it this way and start here at first if you'd prefer to do it like that. So that sounds like a cool pad, and it's because of the automation. It's now having a bit of life to it. So let's see how that sounds like with the keys. Might come up there a bit too much. I'm not sure how well you can hear that because it's still quite quiet. And that's probably too loud. So that's how I would go about creating pads like that. I mean, the thing about pads is you don't really want the listener to ever hear it in a way. Like it shouldn't be noticeable. But it should be noticeable like when to test if your pads are working right, mute them, and do you hear a difference? I mean, this is a good rule of thumb for everything. Don't overload your tracks with so many things. When you mute tracks, does it give the song, is the song missing something? And that's a good reference to ask yourself if you really need those things. If you mute the pad and nothing changes, maybe you need to turn it up, or maybe you don't need it at all. If you mute the pad and it's like, wow, this is really was adding so much, then you know that that's a good production element to have in your song. How would you go about its panning? What's up, Royal Boss? The Good Noise was asking, how would you go about its panning? Panning, you could just go here to the left-right value on this little knob, and you could just pan to the right or pan to the left. With pads, you can have it run up the middle. That's fine. If you're finding it's just too, depending on where your signal is, like what pad range you're targeting, like we're kind of in this 250K kind of range here. You can see on the multimeter. If we wanted to bump this up and by an octave, you can go shift option up arrow and just bump that up to an octave. So you could have that if you want. Now we're in like a different range. So sometimes when I'm saying like different ranges, because you might want to like hard pan a pad to the right or and have a similar tone of a pad pan to the left, just to have more space for your mono signals, like your bass and things like that. If this was down low, this would just get eaten up by the bass anyways. Like if we had a bass, so yeah, if we had a bass guitar here, I can just add a bass. Super loud. It kind of has a different tone than the bass, so it's not really, and you'd never have like a bass note that long. You'd have more like a, well, we can play the keys. It's A minor, C, ears bleeding yet? That was a seriously heavy bass. So let's just look at the chat here for a second. Okay, let's have chat time, because I more or less I think I covered a bulk of this lesson on how to create pads. So you've been using GarageBand for the past couple months. Yeah, it's super overwhelming. What would you recommend? I would recommend get started with GarageBand. If you find you're limited or you find yourself overwhelmed with the tool, then start at a step before that. With Logic, it would be GarageBand. GarageBand is a super good tool to create music. You will be ready for Logic when you know in GarageBand when you're limited. So, for example, in GarageBand, you can't do things like bussing, and there isn't a mixer, and you can't. Those are really two big things. But just when you get into really mixing songs and the speed of producing, when you really need like bussing and different outputs and the flexibility to have like an inspector window on the side here, adding plugins, this isn't really a workflow in GarageBand. You don't have like in the inspector window here with plugins. The plugins are buried in like the controls. And so GarageBand is great to get started like recording and getting song ideas out and creating songs. As soon as you get into heavier styles of production and stuff, you'll notice that you'll want to make the step to Logic. Thanks, Arthur. Thanks for the comments on Skeletons in Your Closet. That's was a really fun song to make. I made it with a producer in Berlin, and I was really happy with that outcome. Thanks for the kind words. Can you please tell me how to make this sound effect Ed Sheeran does for Afterglow? I'm not sure. I've only listened to that song once, I think, that when it came out, and I listened to the acoustic version. So I'm not actually sure what sound you're referring to. Maybe Arfine, can you give me more detail on the sound? Is it like a pad sound? It was so lovely with the volume loud, Charlotte. Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. So keep asking questions. Otherwise, I'll just give a bit of a recap on how you can create more pad sounds and where you can go. And then, but ask me more questions, because I'm here now and happy to help you guys with anything you're wondering about music production or singer songwriting. You would recommend videos from Charles Klein. That's awesome. Thank you, Dreams. Oh, you're saying that to Fancy Flows. Right. Fancy Flows. Is there an effect or tool in GarageBand that you love using? GarageBand specifically? I think no, there's no tool or effect to be honest that I often gravitate towards in GarageBand. I think one thing in GarageBand that's really cool for beginners is the drummer tracks, that you can really easily make drum beats really quickly, and many different patterns and styles of drum beats, and that's super easy to do in GarageBand and great to get started with. It was like, okay, yeah, Arfine, I'm not actually sure. I can't play that song right now either, because they'll copyright claim this video. So I'll take a look at it after, and maybe can make a video around it. So if it was like a auto-tuning type thing, it could be a plugin called Alter Boy maybe, where it changes like the pitch of your voice and the formant of your voice. It looks like this. This plugin here will change the formant of your, which is kind of like the texture. And you can have it on anything. Like I just have it on the bass now. You can have it on, usually it's on like audio signals. So if I go to the loop browser, I think I can just type in like a maybe a vocal chop. Vocals. What's this? Oh, oh, oh. Wow. Okay, so many things happening. So let's do it on this. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah, that it wouldn't really work on this because it's more of a choir. You need like one signal. Sorry, I'm probably ruining your ears. I just ruined mine, so let's back out of this one. But basically, you could use Alter Boy for that. So, thanks for tuning into this one, guys. That's how to create pad sounds for beginners, using the attack on synths and using the presets in like the Logic Synths virtual instruments. There is another good one. I think it's the ESP. No, that's the. I never remember the names of these, but yeah, I think it's this one. Analog pad. See, all these pad sounds here are available. Dark synth pad is cool. Can change it here to see what that sounds like. Like just a warm kind of pad sound. And then you could increase the attack here. So it really increase the release if you want. Lower the cutoff. Like pretty much pads are always more on the low end or mid. If you have a really high pad, they're going to stick out too much. So that's how to create atmospheric pad sounds. Yeah, feel free to subscribe, guys, and see you in the next videos. Happy to help you kind of go on your independent music journey, when you're creating music and producing music. I'm just doing that myself too. I'm an independent musician and I'm a singer-songwriter and producer doing this, just sharing what I'm learning along the way too. So let's do this together. Hope to see you guys in the next video. Friday is a live session and I post a video almost every day, just tutorials about music marketing, music production. So you're very welcome, Charlotte and Arthur and Arfine, everyone else in the chat. Thanks for joining, asking